Now, if you were fortunate enough to be at the men's retreat this past weekend, you already know what a gift Dr. Murray Watson has been to us. And how many times have you led this men's retreat? 3 times. That's awesome. Yeah. I already knew that Dr. Murray was an incredible scholar, and then in chatting before service this morning, he told me about all of his studies in Rome and Jerusalem and Ireland and all of the languages he speaks, and I am hugely intimidated. His focus has been in biblical studies, but also especially in interreligious studies and in the areas of truth and reconciliation between Christianity and Judaism. Now, over the past few days, Dr. Murray has led the men of this church in reflecting on hope, how we find it, how we hold on to it, how God nurtures it even in difficult seasons, and his wisdom and humor and generosity of spirit have enriched the conversations and deepened the faith of everybody he encountered. So this morning, I am absolutely delighted that he's continuing that journey with us in worship today. Murray has a wonderful way of opening scripture with both scholarly insight and a pastor's heart, helping us discover new possibilities in familiar stories. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Murray Watson.
Thank you, Reverend Dina, and thank you to all of you for the privilege of being here with you this morning at MCC Toronto. And to the men of the men's retreat yesterday, thank you for the privilege of spending the day with all of you. Reverend Dina didn't mention it, but I come to you from the Catholic world. And in that Catholic world where I live most of my life, we have a lot of liturgical eves, and by that I mean EVE, not the architectural kind, going back to the ancient Jewish way of counting the day that begins at sunset rather than at midnight. So for us, as it is for many of you, Christmas Eve is really when Christmas starts. And for many of us, Easter Saturday, Sunday Eve, on Holy Saturday, is when we officially begin our Easter celebrations. Some of you will know that we Catholics start Sunday on Saturday night, and we have Saturday evening Mass at many of our parishes. And in the school board where I work, in our office, we often joke that Thursday is already Friday Eve. It's like we're crouching in the starting blocks, ready to launch ourselves in something that we know is coming, and in our minds and hearts, we are already there. So by Thursday, many of us are already mentally shifting gears into the weekend. We are already there. And trust me, as someone who lives on the 400, northbound to cottage country, by Thursday afternoon in the summer, you are already there. Hope is kind of like that. It looks ahead. It looks into the future. It looks past the obstacles and the drudgery and the pain of what we may be going through right now in the moment, trusting that there is something beautiful, something good, something redeemed that is waiting ahead of us, just a little bit beyond the tips of our fingers, almost graspable, but not quite. 8 weeks ago today, we were celebrating Easter and the resurrection of Jesus. And of course, that comes every spring. Every spring, we look forward to it. For those of us who are Christians, it's a focal point on our calendars. The whole liturgical year is kind of shaped around that. We know it's coming. And with the benefit of nearly 2,000 years of telling that story, we know exactly what is going to happen on Easter Sunday. There is no need to hope for that outcome. We know how the story will turn out. We've heard it since we were children. But on a Friday and a Saturday 2,000 years ago, there was no such certainty. Jesus, as we just heard, was crucified. Jesus was humiliated by Judea's Roman imperial authorities, and his broken, lifeless body had been tenderly taken down by his friends and his disciples and buried rather hastily in the borrowed tomb of a friend in the rush to avoid Friday sundown, which was the start of the Jewish Sabbath. And then for 36 or 40 hours, what seems so obvious and clear to us today was not obvious and clear to them. For those who had known Jesus most closely, who had loved him most tenderly, who had followed him most faithfully, those were crushing hours of sorrow and confusion and loss and pain. Jesus was gone, and that was all they knew for sure. Jesus was gone, and it might not be very long before the Romans came for them as well. The one in whom they had put their hope for ultimate redemption and triumph was lying in a cold stone tomb a few miles away. In our rush to Easter Sunday, I think we can too quickly skip over the reality of the 2 days that preceded Easter, which must have felt for Jesus' followers like days of unbearable emptiness and fear, when nothing was making sense, when it was difficult to even think about, even imagine a future. Holy Saturday is a day many of us Christians tend to skip over. That day of waiting, that day of preparation, when Jesus is dead but not yet risen. A time of suspense and wondering without easy answers, when things are not nice and neat and clear and obvious. I have spent my entire adult life reading and studying theology books, but one of the most interesting, certainly one of the most challenging ones I ever read is this one, Between Cross and Resurrection, A Theology of Holy Saturday by Dr. Alan Lewis. Lewis, who as he was writing this book was dying of cancer, asks us to try and put ourselves mentally and emotionally back in the minds of the first Jewish Jesus followers in the 36 hours before Easter. He says, contemporary believers are able to look to the other side and therefore find it difficult now to put ourselves in the shoes of those who have not. What do we see if we make the effort and have the courage to examine the cross of Jesus from the second of those 3 days, looking back without knowledge of the future? The sight then is melancholy, terminal, disastrous. Yesterday a man suffered hellishly and died and was buried. And what are we to make of his death after all he did and said and was in life? What does this dying say to us if he was the life that he said he was? On the day after his death, Jesus is no hero, savior, or redeemer. He is simply dead and gone, convicted as a sinner, a rebel, and a blasphemer who has paid the price of tragic failure. He simply died, and his cause had died with him, quite falsified and finished. The imperial occupiers of Palestine had perceived and liquidated a threat to their authority and their peace. What I love about his book is the thought experiment Lewis asks us to engage in. But his purpose is not a mere historical reimagining, because the same Holy Saturday reality is the reality many of us live in 2026. We look at a world that seems to be and is filled with injustice, violence, marginalization, exclusion, and corruption. There are politicians we know who are exerting every bit of legislative power they can muster to erase refugees, people of color, and 2S LGBTQ+ folks, to make life impossible for the trans community and difficult for anyone who is the other, the religious other, the cultural or linguistic other, the political other, the other in terms of gender identity or sexual orientation. Knowing everything that we do about the gospel story and Easter Sunday, we have to admit that our world right now feels very un-Easter. In so many ways, as individuals and as communities, we are living through our own Holy Saturday experience, trying to look to that future with hope and determination when it feels like a very uphill battle. Hope can be very hard to come by right now, and we talked about this yesterday at the retreat. We are somewhat like the women who buried Jesus and walked away, went home, quietly observing the Sabbath, torn between gritty realism and the possibility of a better and transformed future. Until the morning of Easter Sunday, they could not be certain of any of that. It certainly didn't look or feel like there was a triumph ahead of them. In many ways, we are living Holy Saturday right now, but we are also people of faith who have the benefit of knowing how that story ends, and that there will be an Easter Sunday, that violence and death and injustice will not have the last word. We know that, and yet we do not experience it in all of its glorious truth. And being suspended between what is and what we know will be is the space of hope. Hope in what can be, because we have seen other people around us modeling it for us, modeling what justice and courage and radical compassion and illogical generosity look like. They are not theoreticals, they exist. We experience those things in ourselves on our better days, and we know we are capable of them. And we know that we achieve them better when we are united, when we are weaving hope together. That has always been what MCC and MCC Toronto is about, that no one should have to make the journey toward hope alone. Solidarity in hoping, co-conspirators in making hope happen. So today, among other things, is an eve. It's the eve of Pride Month. In 12 hours, we will be launching a special month of celebration and assertiveness and visibility and protest. In 12 hours, in a very bold and colorful and festive way, we will be speaking hope. Hope that the world as it is not all that the world can or should be. Hope that through your efforts, through mine, through our efforts together, we can fashion a society and a world that is shaped by freedom and authenticity and inclusion and joy. But we're not fully there yet. There is still the Holy Saturday of grasping with ambiguity and messiness and doubt. But faith tells us that what awaits us on the other side, what we are grappling for, is absolutely possible, and that God invites us to co-create that possibility with the Holy One. Pride is a celebration of identity for sure, but even more so at its deepest level, pride is a celebration of hope. It says we are marching in the right direction, and we know that, but the finish line is still ahead of us. Visible, almost touchable, but still needing our efforts and our creativity and our solidarity to reach. Our elders in that struggle have shown us the way, and they are cheering for us as we keep up that necessary work in our own time. Holy Saturday can be a very challenging, uncomfortable place to be, but Holy Saturday is not, we know, where this story ends. As Natalie Sleeth so beautifully put in the words of the hymn that we just heard, in the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter there's a spring that waits to be, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past shall come the future, what it holds a mystery, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death a resurrection, at the last a victory. Unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. Hope is what we represent by gathering here this morning. Hope is what we are building each and every day by our efforts and by the witness of our lives, by our compassion and our resilience and our care for each other. Hope is what we are for each other and what Toronto's Pride Month is for so many who are watching us from around the world where they cannot celebrate. For these 30 days, let us be people of hope. Blessings to you all, my friends. Hope to you, and a happy and blessed Pride Month to you all.